Thank you for tuning in today. Mr. Traveler here. Today, guys, we're going to talk about a question that we get quite often is, what is the Real ID? You've heard a lot about Real ID, and it has been attempted to have been rolled out several times with the dates pushed back. We're going to talk about that and the differences in the passport card. Stay tuned right after this. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Mr. Traveler here, guys. If we can help you plan that dream vacation, please give us a call at 877-697-4470, or we can be reached at www.mr-traveler.com. Of course, join us on Mr. Traveler 74 on Instagram and Mr. Traveler Cruise Lovers Group on Facebook. You guys remember this old flashback from OGs from the channel? One of my favorite videos that we did, our fun video from the Carnival Breeze way back in the day when we still lived in Michigan. It's one of my favorite videos that we did. Anyway, guys, so let's talk about what is the Real ID. So after 9/11, kind of well after 9/11, in 2005, the government came up with a law that was going to enact what we call the Real ID. Basically what it is a set standard for driver's license or identification type of documents that would span all the United States and territories. Currently, I believe most of the country and the territories are in compliance, but not all. And so the new date now is May the 7th of 2025 for all states and territories to be compliant with the Real ID Act. You can look online for your particular state to see how they identify the Real ID compliance. But for most of the states, it's a star located on your driver's license or your ID. So the Real ID is going to be needed to enter federal buildings, mostly for the biggest thing for our audience here is to enter federal buildings is one thing. But it's also for flights because it's controlled by TSA, FAA. It's all government controlled. So you're going to need a Real ID compliant identification to be able to fly beginning May the 7th, 2025. So that date, there was a date this year that we were supposed to enact the Real ID, but that was pushed back now to May 7th, 2025. So whether it gets pushed back again, I don't know. Like I said, they started this law back in 2005. Look where we are now. So, anytime you try to get different agencies, state agencies, and federal agencies to do something, you know how that red tape goes. But anyway, that's what you're going to need. So I also wanted to preface this by saying, you can use your passport or your passport card as another method to get on to the airlines, which will be sufficient if you don't have a Real ID document. So I did want to talk a little bit about the passport card as well, because that's a question that we get a lot of times when people are considering buying, going on a cruise is, should they get a passport card? The big draw for a passport card is the cost. It's only like $30 and it lasts for 10 years. But here's the caveat to the passport card. So the passport card is only good for land and sea entries from the United States. So in other words, if you're driving to Canada or Mexico, it's good for that. If you're going on a cruise to the Caribbean or Mexico, it's good for that as long as the cruise is departing from and returning to a U.S. port. So it's good for that. Downside to it. So let's say you're on that Caribbean cruise and God forbid something happens to you on one of the islands, you're not going to be able to fly because you don't have a passport. It's a foreign country. There are ways around there. Obviously, you're not stuck there forever, but it's a lot of red tape to get on an airplane without a passport. So the passport card is good for cruises, but like when we talk to our clients on the phone, I think of the passport as an investment in your travel future. So it's good for the airplanes, obviously domestically. You can just keep your passport with you. That's what we do most of the time. But you know, so you're going on a cruise this year and you're like, oh, I want to spend $30 to go and get a passport card. Well, it's good for 10 years, but guess what? So is your passport. So now what happens in a couple of years, maybe you know, got a little bit of a raise at your job or whatever happened, and you're like, I really want to go try to do something different. I want to go do a med cruise. I want to go do a Australia cruise, whatever the case may be. It's a big old world, right? You're going to need that passport. So our advice to people always is, you know what, you're spending the money, you're filling out basically the same paperwork. Go ahead and opt for the passport because it's more uses for it, whereas a passport card is kind of a unitasker as far as the travel goes. So I just wanted to share that little piece of advice, give you guys some information on the Real ID and the passport card. I hope that you found this information helpful for your future endeavors. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Remember, life's short, have fun, see the world. And don't forget, guys, to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell, hit the notifications so that you get notified when we upload new videos or go live. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.